and Stu on the mic, broadcasting through the night, talking F1, getting every fact kind of right, from the grid to the finish, they're all in. Top Step Podcast, let the race begin.
Welcome everybody to the Top Step with Rhyss and Stu.
How you going, mate?
I am quietly excited. I've had 4 words rolling through my head ever since the end of the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
Do they happen to just have 2 letters each word?
They do, and it's a little repetitive.
Yeah,
A little repetitive.
Had the same words, funnily enough.
So
something that we completely wrote off. I think we did.
Did we? I think that if we went back and fact-checked, actually, we need to get things started the right way, of course, as we always
yes,
do.
of course.
And a description for those of you listening, we are cracking a can of Mother's Milk, the white monster, to get started on this, the 28th episode.
Oof!
I was sitting in my study because it's actually hot in Melbourne for once. Well, relatively hot. It's actually not that hot at all. And I was reflecting back to our very first show, and I think I was in a singlet.
Yeah, no, I was watching some stuff. We're in singlets, and it was sunny, and yes, feels like a different time.
Those were the days, 28 episodes ago. The 28th show, but I reckon that we said that if anybody could do it,
oh, yes,
it would be Max. And he is... we're overplaying how very close it is. It's still going to take some luck, but this weekend, that is exactly what he received. He got he drove a really great race actually, but he got lucky. The double DQ, of course, we're talking about of McLaren for the same fate as Ferrari early in the season. So I can't say, albeit I'm sure you're going to tell us differently after you have dove deep into the crevice. Dare I say, the sweaty crevice of society on Reddit, and you've gone deep and you've got some surprises for us. I don't know what you're going to bring to the newest segment to hit the pod, but I enjoyed the last installment. So look, we'll just get straight into it.
Straight in.
What a boring race. Like, am I jaded because we're 28 in? Like, can you, other than the start, which is what we say every week, what happened that was exciting? Williams losing communication and not knowing they needed to change a front wing? I mean, that was pretty exciting.
That absolutely was. Or did they need to change a front wing, or did they need to check for damage? Like, we don't know what the communication was meant to be.
Only because it broke. How do you break a radio in a Formula One car? Like, really, come on, if you can't get that right.
The technology has been there for some time, but I digress. I don't think we're jaded. I think we're sort of, with everything going on, with everything as tight and as close as to what it is, some more battles, some closer stuff up the front. I think not a 20-second lead or a 12-second lead before, the slowdowns. But yeah, I just think we expected more, considering that from the first lap and then after the race was where all the excitement did come in. It was still a fantastic race, and there's some awesome moves in there, but you are correct. There's a few laps in the middle there that were a bit just driving around.
I just want to... I was like, is it just a street circuit thing? And then I realized, no, it's not just a street circuit thing. But what it is, in my mind, is a purpose-built racing facility, and they made it in the shape of Spider Pig. And it's just not conducive to good racing. They've got all these possibilities to make a track, all the money in the world to build a facility, and it's a shitbox. Except Ferrari's not responsible for it. So, yeah, and look, and I mean, I think it was an Antonelli. No, it wasn't Kimi who came out and said it. I think it was Franco came out and said, like, it was just over the top. Like, how do they have this many fireworks at the end of a race? I think that was still going on by the time they'd finished interviewing every single driver, and they're just finishing the fireworks show. But
I did see it interesting that Mickey Mouse was out there singing live apparently, and it was not live whatsoever.
Oh no, not at all. No, not even close. So, I mean,
I think my whole idea of the race this weekend was I was so excited. It was rain, qualifying was treacherous, it was improving, and then we got to the race and it was dry. And there was just everything, all the flow on from the qualifying just wasn't there. So I was amped for a wet, tight street race, and we didn't get that. I think that was why, yeah.
I also, just on the facility, just while I'm having a little gripe, why would you build a facility where you have to drive the drivers to the podium?
No.
Why, when you make that decision, and again, the Lego cars were cool when the drivers were driving them, but I think this time they missed the mark, building a 400,000 piece car for them to drive. But then let's get Terry Crews to drive the drivers back around, shall we? That'll be fun. Anyway, enough bashing. Look, qualifying, a few surprises, of course. Some drivers getting caught out with that wet weather that you spoke about. The light dusting of water on the track, shall we say, that invaded all of qualifying. We'll start from the bottom up. Lewis Hamilton, apparently, according to some former drivers, has lost it, should give it away. I beg to differ. Followed up by Yuki Tsunoda even. He does drive for Red Bull, in case you didn't know. Gabriel Bortoleto in 18th. Kimi Antonelli in 17th. And we'll get to Kimi and his drive. And Alexander Albon just continuing his missing the mark. A little bit of tyre issue there that hurt him. But just not getting around to be able to do a lap with improving track conditions. Franco Colapinto, double Alpine into Q2, so echoing their form of last year where they came strong right at the end of the season when nobody gave a stuff about what they're doing, and just doing it again, which is great for their sponsors. Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon. I was trying to have a think back. Is that the second only time that Esteban has out-qualified Ollie?
Second or third, yeah, you are absolutely on. It's not off. It's not much.
So it must have been a mistake there, maybe some blue tack or something, causing an issue. Lance Stroll in 12th. No, that isn't a mistake. Nico Hulkenberg 11th. And then the top 10, Pierre Gasly. A good effort from him again to...
Whoa. What did you just say positively about Pierre Gasly?
Well, because it's him. It's a good effort for him to get into Q3, irrespective. I reckon if he was in a McLaren, he would manage to qualify 10th. Charles Leclerc in 9th. I don't dislike him. I just don't think he's as good as he thinks he is. Isaac, way better than me, but anyway, that doesn't matter. I'm on the sidelines, a armchair critic. Isaac Hadjar in 8th. Again, he can't get out of that spot. It's just we'll just give Isaac 8th. I don't even know what it is in French, but it must be a good word. Fernando Alonso in 7th. Again, another good performance from him. Liam Lawson in 6th. Again, that's not a misprint. He had a good qualifying session. And again, got the advantage of improving track conditions and just got in there at the end. Oscar Piastri 5th, continuing his woes, would we call it. Russell in 4th. Carlos Sainz in 3rd. Talk about doing things at the end of the season when it doesn't really matter. Max Verstappen in 2nd, and Lando smashing everybody in Q3 by 0.3. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a huge margin.
Triple purple sectors,
100%.
Just coming into the end, just doing what he needed to do in that case. I do, before we move on from quali, I do want to say, and this is difficult for me to say, but I was actually hyping for Stroll to do something because he showed some really good pace. Him and Alonso were up there. He was doing all the things that he should be doing. He was putting out some lightning fast times, and then made the call to go to the intermediates way too early in quali when no one else was trying it in an improving track where the wets was still getting quicker and quicker. So just a strategy call then, but I would have been really interested to see where Stroll could have put that car with the wets on through the whole of the quali.
Yeah, and look, probably a little bit of trial as well, just to help Fernando. Again, albeit we joke about Daddy Stroll and Veruca and all that, Fernando's the number one driver in that team, so it might have been a little bit of testing the waters. If it
Well,
were,
I guess, like you say, in this point in the season, what did they really have to lose? Roll the dice, and he could have gone P2
absolutely,
because he was on the intermediates
Yep,
early. But
yep.
just seeing Stroll in the wet when he can get it, he puts in some really good times. But there's no gray area. It's either in the wall or it's an okay time. Like how it seems to be how he rolls in the wet.
Yeah, it does. No, you're spot on. So, and at the end of the day, Lando deserves to get P1. I think he was surprised that he got P1, and particularly by the margin.
Yeah, obviously
So,
with the yellow flags behind him and things like that, but still did it when he needed to do it. So
absolutely. So, well done to him. And then, of course, we move into the race itself, and there was a lot to unpack at the start, as I mentioned at the top of the show. Lando got caught trying to Max Verstappen, in my opinion, and unfortunately missed his braking marker, ran wide after trying to close the door and let Max through at the start there, along with George, who had another one. I'm not going to say I got it wrong, because we do get facts kind of right here, but he has quietly achieved very well this season.
He's just been
very
there.
well.
He is just, and he was doing this at the start of the season where he was just third or fourth or just third. But he was just there, and he's still just there. So I'm very, very excited to see what him and Kimi can do next year.
Well, he's going to end up the season with his highest points total ever. And the Mercedes hasn't been consistently good.
No.
But he's managed to pull results with it. And of course, Kimi's had a stellar start as well. The other thing, I don't know if you noticed it, but Oscar was lucky to be in the race post turn one. So there were 3 distinct events in the turn one race start. Obviously, the Lando Max Lando thing was always going to be on, and Max was always going to push because he could.
I just before skating over the Max, he read that like Max would read it, but he didn't miss the apex. He braked, he moved, and he got it. So I don't know. It was just good to see on the other side, because generally Max is quite aggressive in that turn, but to sort of show what to do when someone is aggressive on you and not end up on the outside of the track like most other people would have.
Yeah, and they thought that he'd get a bad start because he was on the clean side of the track that had been washed as well. He wasn't on the racing line, as he shouldn't be, because he didn't qualify P1. So he got away really well. I mean, reaction time and all that sort of stuff, and managed to do that. So as you said, but I mean, that's an experience thing. Lando will be getting giddy because there's only it's really close for him. He's close to achieving his boyhood dream. Whereas for Max, it's, I'm almost into number 5 in a row, so I know what to do. I've been in this position before. So yeah, it's interesting. Really, really interesting. Liam Lawson and Oscar Piastri. Did you pick up how hard Liam Lawson ran into Oscar?
Mm-hmm.
And lucky, no damage, no brakes, no nothing for either of them. And it wasn't totally Liam's fault. There was a lot going on just behind him, with Bortoletto deciding to play a game of truth or dare, and he lost, and went just cruising into poor old Lance Stroll at the start of the race.
I not often completely disagree with you, but I was completely there for that being wholeheartedly Lawson's fault. I understand that George locked up in front of him, but he was never going to make that corner, and he went for a gap that there was a car there, and he smacked into Oscar, and obviously there was luckily no damage to Oscar's car. He broke his own front wing, rubbing onto his tyre, but I don't know where he thought he was going to go. And then this takes me back to the penalty that Oscar was given.
I knew this was coming.
With Kimi Antonelli and Charles Leclerc. And I said to you then, would there have been a penalty if no one got taken out of the race? The same thing happened, minus someone getting taken out of the race. So no one got took out of the race at this time.
Ooh.
There was...
No, yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, he didn't take himself out.
No one spun
like Leclerc did. and there was no penalty given. And that's where I'm just lost. Like, Oscar lost 2 places at that time. Both Hadjar and Lawson got ahead of him until Lawson obviously had to pit and things like that. So he lost out because he got crashed into when he was on the racing line, and Lawson had locked up because someone else had locked up in front of him. So again, he looked out of control. So where was the penalty? I just couldn't. What we said regarding someone getting taken out and there was a penalty for it has happened the week after, and there was no penalty. I'm just mad at transparency or their lack of.
I have nothing to say other than yes.
Smile and wave, boys.
You are absolutely spot on with your analysis. Yeah, absolutely. I have nothing further to add. But that's look. He got disqualified anyway at the end of the day. So, but the consistency is a big problem, and obviously the penalty that he incurred means that at the moment he is level on points with Max, rather than ahead of Max and a lot closer to Lando. Well, actually, he would be closer to Lando, but a very strong point. And then of course we had Gabriel Bortoleto broadside Lance Stroll. He did. Maybe it was retribution for Brazil.
Maybe.
When he got forced off the track by Lance, so he just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna kick him off the track. But yeah, terrible. And he's got a 5 place grid penalty coming his way.
I am waiting for
well.
I am waiting for Colapinto to come out and say something else against other drivers, like he did against Lance Stroll with the last Bortoleto incident.
Yeah, well, he's an angry Argentine. He'll say what he needs to say. And look, you know what? You can't really throw much shade when you finish a lap down at the end of the Grand Prix. So, results-wise, of course, Max Verstappen, a masterclass. I did really, really enjoy McLaren's top-level secret squirrel secrecy by announcing on the radio that came across the TV broadcast where he needed to save fuel and that he was coming after Max, and then Max blew him away and drove off into the distance. So that was really, really impressive from McLaren. George Russell coming home in second. Obviously, these results are adjusted for the the DSQs, I should say, for Norris and Piastri. So Russell in second and Kimi Antonelli in third.
A drive. Qualifies 17th.
Absolutely. So Verstappen-esque, same number of places, just a different result. So
50 laps, I think he did on that tyre, where everyone had said, every person that they went to said, no, he's not going to be able to do those laps, not going to do that time. And he was consistently faster on those laps than George on his tyres in the same machinery. Just tyre whisperer. Very Verstappen-esque.
And did just get across the line ahead of Leclerc in fourth. Carlos Sainz in fifth, a good result for him, obviously starting in third. Isaac Hadjar finishing in sixth. Nico Hulkenberg, your mate, running home in seventh, a good result for him. Lewis Hamilton from the back of the grid finishing in eighth, albeit he is checked out, ready to go, and on his way to holidays. And who can blame him? It has been a big year for him. And then Esteban Ocon and Oliver Biermann finishing 9th and 10th. Double points for Haas. Second weekend in a row. So good for them, because that's helping with their place in the Garagista title. Alonso 11th, probably another one that he wants to forget. Yuki Tsunoda up to 12th. Not bad for him in a car built for Max Verstappen. Pierre Gasly 13th, a bit of a return to form there. Liam Lawson 14th. Franco Colapinto 15th. Both of those drivers finishing a lap down, with Alexander Albon out, Gabriel Bortoleto, of course, out, and Lance Stroll out as well. We did forget to mention that Antonelli also had that 5-second penalty for his car shivering on the start line, waiting for the other drivers to go, and apparently he moved a micro millimetre, probably less than the distance or the thickness that the McLarens were disqualified for and copped a 5-second penalty. So his drive even better, taking that into consideration.
He punched out a larger gap against Leclerc to hold that place in what ended up being third. So just to add more to the drive as well, not only punching old tyres and things like that, he extended his gap to Charles for over 5 seconds to maintain that position. But I do want to say that is where I'm okay with the rules. So we had some transparency issues with the false starts and things like that previously, and the FIA have just come out and said, if you move, regardless if it's pinned. A benefit or not, then you're pinned.
Yeah, because I think it was once the light sequence starts, if you move but you're stationary when they go green, you're correct. Okay, which is weird.
Yeah. So now it's if you move before the lights are out, then you're gone.
Once they go up, you stop.
Yeah, so that's where I'm like, okay, like that's the rule and that's what happened. And he didn't get a good start from it. He actually bogged down because of it, because he was rolling, stopped, and then started again. So he didn't get a benefit from it. But that's where the transparency is, like, to me, is okay, because that stems to rules.
Absolutely. So out of that, what it means is that Lando Norris stays on 390, Oscar Piastri stays on 366, but Max Verstappen joins him. Now, I think Max is actually in second, but the F1 website says he's in third.
I do believe Max is in second as well, because
most
he's won
wins,
more races.
Yeah, so maybe that only comes into the case when you're first or at the end of the season. I don't know, but anyway, he's equal second. It doesn't matter. The gap to the top is 24 points, and of course we've got a sprint weekend this weekend with 25 for the feature, but was it 15 for the first, 10 for the first? I can't remember. We'll look that up for the sprint race. Russell 294, Leclerc 226. I think that's probably done and dusted for fourth place. Hamilton 152 in sixth with Antonelli on 137. That, however, is not done and dusted. Imagine him beating Hamilton in his debut season in his old car. That would leave a sour taste on the pasta being served at Maranello.
Just so sprint race winner is 8 points, and then it's 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, down to 8th place.
Brilliant. Albon in 8th, just hanging on. Hadjar in 9th, and the Hulk rejoins the top 10 on 49 points. Team-wise, before we get into Rhys Ranksome, what have you done, Stu? You've just closed the whole thing down. What sort of an organisation are you running here?
So we're starting from the bottom. We've got Alpine at 22 points. So I'm pretty sure that's where they're going to be. It's they
more than we thought.
They cannot move up from there. But yes, 22 more than they thought. Kick Sauber, 68 points, only trailing Aston Martin by 4 points.
It's tight.
So it is tight. And then only trailing Haas is now 73. So 9th, 8th, and 7th is completely just up for grabs. Up until Racing Bulls only at 90 points as well. Williams in 5th. I think they're probably going to stay at 5th with the Carlos Sainz great weekend. At 121 points. Ferrari 4th with 378. This is where it gets tight again. So Ferrari with 378 and Red Bull Racing at 391. Mercedes at 431, and obviously McLaren have taken that out with 756. But there's a pretty tight Ferrari 378, Red Bull at 391. So there's still a few jumps there that are going to happen in there with realistically 3 races left.
Yeah, well, 7th, 8th, and 9th is definitely not decided. And I don't necessarily, because Williams still, like we spoke about last week, only getting one driver in the points. Racing Bulls, if they can put the weekend together, they could definitely close that gap and potentially try and steal 5th in the last round. So it's definitely not over for the placements. And as you say, Red Bull, Max Verstappen Racing and Ferrari are still definitely battling out, as well as Mercedes. If they have a bad weekend, it could be Red Bull into second. And what a finish for them as well, just taking on the changes that happened at that organisation halfway through the year. If Laurent can bring them home in second place that would absolutely vindicate the horn dog getting removed, in addition to Max actually competing for the title at the moment.
I was going to say, I think everything is the ingredients are there that the right decision was made. The improvement in the car, improvement in Max, improvement in the team, everything. I just think they've obviously done the right thing. And as we've said to Ferrari before, the fish rots from the head down. So obviously they've got it right in doing that.
So just quickly touching on that, I did hear a scandalous rumour that perhaps Aston Martin might be getting rid of Andy Cowell, and one particular man might be just lurking in the dark, trying to take his spot. Of course, Andy Cowell is the CEO of Aston Martin F1, but I can't believe that this is even a rumour.
No, I think the Adrian Newey would no.
There is no chance.
As tight as they were, I think everything that happened with the Horner files were the reason why Newey up and left. So I just can't see him welcoming that into the team.
The worst of rumours, that one is. Speaking of rumours, let's get into Rhyss Ranksome and let's ruminate around what was an interesting weekend for a few drivers. I'm going to be interested to see what you got to say.
So starting from bottom to top, we'll start with, so we've got Piastri, Norris, DSQ, Stroll, Bortoletto, and Albon DNFs. So let's start with Franco Colapinto, who has earned himself the only F of the weekend. Lawson, I've given a D to. He was higher. So I sort of do this two stages. He was higher. He's got great qualifying, good starts, and things like that. And then obviously dropped back in the race. Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso, all C's. Ollie Bierman and Esteban Ocon, I've given B's to. Lewis Hamilton, I've given Hamilton an A. I did not expect, obviously didn't expect the P20, but the 20th to 8th drive with everything else going on was a phenomenal effort. Missing a lot of those positions at the start, just avoiding carnage. I was pretty impressed with the weaving.
Yeah, he did a good job, didn't he? At the start?
Massively good job. Obviously, experience, things like that. Nico Hulkenberg, I've given him a B because just the expectations. Isaac Hadjar, B. Carlos Sainz and Leclerc are both A's. Antonelli is A+++++. What a drive. That young man is going to be a multiple world champion.
Yep.
George Russell, Max Verstappen, both A+ as well. Again, just George doing what he needs to do and picking up what he needs to pick up when he has to. So they always called him Mr. Saturday, but he's delivering what he needs to do. And Max is doing absolutely everything he needs to do this weekend.
Yeah, and Max got the driver of the day as well. I was actually a little bit surprised about that because, he didn't have to do a lot. I say that in in the context of making things look easy as he does, but it's not. I thought Antonelli might get it or Hamilton, but getting driver of the day as well.
I thought Antonelli would have got it, but I think a lot of people were just excited to see Max win the race.
I was one of them because if Oscar can't win, I am quite happy for Max to win. Heathen, I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Alrighty. I'm going to keep handing the mic over to you here. The Reddit files. This is a new segment that birthed itself in the same way that a lot of the miscreants do on Reddit itself. And I kind of enjoyed it. So I said to you, I think you got to make this a segment because I like the deep dive down into the dirty, dark crevices of the underbelly of the actual internet. And you've done a bit of digging this week.
Well, all right, strap in because today's episode is going full /Formula One conspiracy /hour. The kind of deep dive you only stumble into at 2 a.m. after watching slow motion podium replays like I'm investigating the FBI interrogation footage. We're talking about Lando Norris, the 2025 Las Vegas Grand Prix, and why I am absolutely convinced he knew his McLaren was getting disqualified before the FIA even hit post on the document. So I deep dived into a lot of this. So that is where we are heading. And yes, I said it. I did think that Lando knew he was going to get DSQ'd. Let's break it down. First up, the podium body language, or I call it the Lando slump. Everyone else saw a happy podium. I saw a man who looked like he just heard Zach Brown whisper, "We're cooked." Freeze frame it. I've done it too many times. Lando's smile never reaches his eyes. He's looking down every second. He's not directly looking at the camera. He barely sprays the champagne. He does the world's Olympus trophy lift like it's made of depleted uranium. You're telling me that guy thinks he's keeping P2? No chance. That's the posture of a man who's already mentally reading an FIA PDF. There's a moment, now go watch this, where the interviewer compliments his drive and Lando nods and then immediately exhales, looks down and rubs the back of his neck. The classic, I'm not allowed to say what I know energy. And McLaren's garage behavior was weird. Multiple reporters mentioned McLaren mechanics doing very long stares at the plank after the race, a cluster of engineers huddled around a laptop like they were defusing a bomb, a noticeable lack of celebration atmosphere. When a team knows they're safe, you see orange shirts bouncing like they're at a Will Sparks concert. When a team knows the car is borderline illegal, you see what we saw, the anxiety huddle, the technical reality why they'd know now, the technical reality why they would have known early. Here's a part that gives my theory actual teeth. Teams can get early indications of plank wear, ride height issues, and legality concerns through sensor telemetry, scraping patterns when the floor inspection starts, overhearing chatter from the FIA tech staff, their own post-race measurements before the FIA's formal checks. And Las Vegas in 2025 had the perfect recipe. Rough, bumpy circuit, insane porpoising levels, low downforce setup with aggressive rake. McLaren running the car low to survive the straights. Now, McLaren said that their car was not going to be dominant at Vegas. It wasn't going to be a good setup. And then we got the car that it did, triple purple sectors in quali, putting Lando on pole. If McLaren were worried, they should have been worried immediately. And Lando's personality gave him away. His behavioral read comes in. He's very emotional, very expressive, terrible at hiding when something's on his mind. The world's worst liar when he's stressed. Remember the reactions after the sprint crash in Baku 2024, after the rainy Zandvoort quality, after the wrong tyre call at Inters? He wears everything on his sleeve. And in Vegas, he looked like a guy pretending to enjoy a birthday party, even though he knew that the surprise cake was filled with spiders. But the timeline makes it worse. The FIA didn't announce the disqualification instantly. It came after the Michelin Man-like parade of parc fermé, plank inspections, data checks, and official scrutineering, but teams talk. They always do. Mechanics hear whispers long before the public does. The delay in the verdict, that's the classic everyone already knew, the FIA is just printing the PDF. So did Lando know? Look, I'm not saying McLaren tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey mate, grab job today. Also, your car's illegal and we're dead." But I am saying his posture, his hesitation, his lack of celebration, and cryptic interview lines, overly subdued podium behavior are exactly what you'd expect from a driver who's been quietly warned. Don't get too attached to that trophy, buddy. And if you think these teams don't tell drivers stuff early, come on, you're adorable. Final thought, maybe it's coincidence, maybe he was tired, maybe he had indigestion from those Vegas paddock tacos. But deep down, with my tinfoil hat strapped on and the podium slow-mo replay queued up, Lando Norris absolutely knew something was coming. And honestly, it makes the whole Vegas 2025 storyline even better.
There you go. There's a lot to unpack from that. Wow. When you mentioned the porpoising, I was reminded of Max making the joke about porpoising when they were on their way to the
in the Lego
podium,
car.
In the Lego car. So maybe he knew more and he was laughing, but Lando definitely was not laughing at that point in time.
I have never seen someone so sad to get P2 ever.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack there, but there were so many sparks coming from that McLaren down the straight that you kind of weren't surprised when they said, I don't know, it was by a micron. It was less than a piece of paper that it was under, but under's under, and the Ferraris were the same. So, yeah, I don't know, very interesting. It's all it's done, if nothing else, is encouraged a much closer finish. I did hear that Zach Brown had put in a request to the FIA to penalise Oscar twice Just
Instead of Lando once.
Instead of Lando once, just because, but they denied that request on the basis of papaya rules and keeping everything fair. So that was good of the FIA to do that. Speaking of which, not the FIA, but keeping everything fair. We've got a situation now, where 2 points is all that is required by Lando Norris to win the World Championship. What I mean by that is he needs to outscore Oscar and Max by 2 points to take home the biscuits this weekend and close it out. Of course, we've got back-to-back Grand Prix to close out the season. So my mind twisted a little bit, and I'm thinking, if I'm Max and if I'm Oscar, I mean, Oscar has to throw papaya rules out the window in his mind. He doesn't have to do it with McLaren, with full visibility of McLaren, because you're in a situation where you may never be in this situation again. As long as your career is, think about Alonso, who has back-to-back Drivers' World titles and then daylight between that and where he is now, having driven for some of the best teams. So you never know if you're going to be in this situation again, right?
And even more so this season, because if the cars were staying the same going into next season, if we weren't getting a complete reshuffle of everything, you could say, cool, we're still going to be competitive next year. We've done all this tech work. We've done all this improvement on the car for next year. But no, it's completely unknown. So absolutely even more so.
So as it stands now, Lando's gone from a position of having one driver with nothing to lose to two drivers with nothing to lose and two races to contend with. So the sprint race, as we've seen all season, the sprint race has been a crash fest. It's probably a little harsh, but relatively to Formula One, there have been far more instances in the sprint races than there have been in the feature race. Because why wouldn't there be? I mean, it's that you've got nothing to lose. So qualifying backs up the sprint race. So there is something to lose if they damage the car. They may not make it through to qualifying for the feature, which of course is more important because there's bigger bang for buck. So I think Lando will be quietly more concerned than he probably would have been had it just been Max that he was worrying about.
Some sort of, and he would have had more of a buffer, obviously, and lots of things.
Well, Max probably would have been out of it.
Yeah, no, yep.
Because obviously, he wouldn't have been because there's still two rounds to go, but and more points on offer than the gap. But when the gap stretches that far, I mean, at the moment it's a race win. It's literally a DNF for Lando and a race win for Max
or Oscar.
Yeah, or Oscar gets either of them into the lead of the Drivers' World title. So this is the time for Lando to be concerned about the drivers that have nothing to lose, which is everybody else. So
did we see? So the last few weeks we've sort of praised Lando's come to form and how we're told he really come to it and he wasn't fumbling with the pressure out sort of stuff. Was the bottling of turn one at Vegas the seams coming undone in the stress and the pressure? Because that was very early Lando-esque, not something that we've seen of late.
I think seams coming undone probably a little harsh. Track conditions may not have been as good. Well, actually, they're probably the best they had been all weekend, but probably weren't as good for a high pressure start like that. He was distracted, as he should be, because Max again has nothing to lose. But no, because I mean the rest of the drive was really good. So I don't think that we've seen him come undone, and I think he'll probably. It's difficult to say he'll learn from his mistakes because I think it was a pressure-based mistake. So how he manages that, I mean, obviously there's experts who help the drivers manage the pressures and things like that. But I can't help but go back to the fact that Max has been in a situation where he had to beat the guy in front of him on a race restart to take out a driver's world title. Admittedly, there were circumstances around that, but he was still faced with that position in a race in the last round of the year. So neither Oscar nor Lando have had that level of pressure on their shoulders with such a big prize at stake. Not only has Max done it, but he's been there 4 times having to do it. Even at the end of last year when he wasn't winning and he was struggling for form, I know he had the big points gap, but the pressure was still on and he didn't really crack under the pressure. So I think for Lando, it actually piles on a lot more pressure this weekend because he has 2 opportunities to score no points. And it was a mixed bag for them last year. So, they did well in the sprint, but didn't do well in the main race. So it's a tough one because Max finished the year well in a poor car. So, and the tracks that we're going to haven't changed. So, yeah, I don't know. I obviously I can't wait to see like everybody else, but I think we might. It's a graduation. Should we call it a graduation moment for Lando? If he copes with the pressure, it's a full. He's come out of his cocoon.
Absolutely, he's got Max.
Butterfly.
He's got Max out of his subconscious.
Yeah, but the weekend suggested that maybe he hasn't. So
Probably doesn't. Yeah.
So on that note, I thought that it was going to be a short show tonight, but I think we've nearly managed to fill up an hour anyway. We're off to the penultimate round of the Formula One World Title, and it could be decided this weekend. I hope it isn't. Even if Max doesn't win, I hope we go down to the last race with a chance because it keeps the interest in it.
It makes the Abu Dhabi race so much better.
Absolutely. So let's hope that we get a mixture of results that maybe we speculated and we take the sprint out of it. Maybe we'll see Max be 1 point behind Lando at the end of the round.
Because even last year,
or
it was
Oscar.
Down to Oscar, yeah, but it was down to the Constructors' Championship at Abu Dhabi between Ferrari and McLaren. Mm-hmm. So there was still four drivers on the track fighting for something huge.
Yep.
And obviously McLaren took that out. But when you go to the last race and everything's sewn up, like we saw with Mercedes, where, before pre-2021, where you see Mercedes have wrapped up Constructors, have wrapped up the world title, there's not a lot going on at the last race.
Yep.
In terms of pressure, in terms of fighting, in terms of that sort of thing. So I'm fingers crossed for a last race effort across the three drivers to get it figured out.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be watching and definitely be bringing you a wrap of that race next week. But for now, mate, that's it. That's the Vegas show done without as many fireworks and as much spectacle. But pity that's been renewed until 2030 something. But that's okay.
I guess that's what happens when you build a multi-million-dollar head office there.
It is, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So that is the end of this 28th installment of The Top Step with Rhyss and Stuart. I'm Stuart Brown.
I'm Rhyss Ashmore, and we will see you for show 29 next week.
We will indeed. Have a great week. Enjoy the race.
Well, that's the checkered flag. We're at the end of the race. Thanks for tuning in. You kept up the pace. Rhyss and Stuart signing off today, but don't forget